and find your home on wheels. After all, home is where you park it. Highway Campers is a proud supporter of Griswold Youth Football.
You see the signs everywhere. No alcohol if under 21. No tobacco under 21. No vaping supplies under 21. It's 21 for a reason.
Youth that use alcohol are more likely to engage in other risky behaviors, such as gambling. Learn the warning signs and how to talk to your children about addiction.
It's 21 for a reason. Brought to you by CIRAC and funded in partnership with SAMHSA. Find out more at CIRACCT.org.
Hi, Miranda Mahoney here from Grizzle Pride, your local drug prevention coalition. So, marijuana, now legal in Connecticut, but there are some things you really should know. It's only legal for people 21 and older. And always, always secure your cannabis products like edibles, vape pens, dabs, and of course marijuana in a locking storage container and keep it out of sight and of reach of kids. Kids don't know the difference between a THC edible gummy and a candy gummy you might buy at a store. There's many resources available at grizzlepride.org or our Facebook and Instagram pages. And parents, you are your child's greatest influence. Talk early, talk often about the risks of substance use on their developing brains. Check out grizzlepride.org. grizzlepride.org. grizzlepride.org.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay.
Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Your community radio.
Live from Main Street.
Mike Minarski and Rich Wasilick in the morning. And 80s all day and night.
SNSN.
Still not Rich, because Rich is still on assignment.
In his recliner.
In his recliner.
Popping pills.
Popping pills. Speaking of which. No, he's...
See how I did that?
I see that. I see that. You are remarkable. And Victoria's back. Yay, Victoria. She has returned.
I'm barely awake.
It's been, what, a couple weeks since you've been here?
Yeah, because election day happened and then... Yeah.
So how did that work out for you, election day and everything?
It was awesome.
It went well?
Yeah, it was a great day. The weather was beautiful and your candidates did well. Yeah.
Well, Anne
and Heather.
Yeah. Brian Lanou also won.
Yeah.
The scary thing about Brian,
that lady who didn't even campaign got a lot of votes.
I know.
I was like, well, they elected a dead person in Pennsylvania, and then a vegetable got a position. I mean,
I don't think that's anything against Brian. I think it was more...
No, it's party line.
Yeah.
But it goes to show you how bad that party line thing is.
I don't, like, for example, if I wasn't going to vote for Brian Lanou, I just wouldn't vote. I wouldn't have voted for that race.
Right.
You know, I mean...
I think people feel like they have to, like, fill in every... I mean, there were some boxes I didn't fill because I wasn't giving the candidate a vote.
Right. Well, it's funny because, like, the girl, she was from Preston that was running against Brian.
Yeah.
Didn't campaign at all.
No.
Nothing. And it just in Grizzled alone, she ended up like 1,400 votes.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I mean...
Well, that happened...
what if she would have won? She would have sat there with her family and go, now what?
I was shocked.
So you resigned because you really didn't want it in the first place?
Know. There was a lady running for state rep up Putnam Way. Rick Hayes is their current in that area. And this Christine Maine was running against them. She had some scary thoughts that came out of her mouth during the campaign time, and even the Democrats that were endorsing her were like, "Whoa, wait a minute! No, we're stepping back." She didn't really campaign, but she got votes. And I'm like, if you had listened to her
Party
speak,
lines.
you know, it was like, how could you back that?
It's party lines. That's
Yeah,
what that is.
that's all it is. And
Wow.
that's crazy. As much as I'm one way, if that candidate wasn't the best choice, I wouldn't vote for him.
Well, I'm trying to. Where's my button here? I'm looking for. No. Okay.
What?
No, there was an effect that was on here, but I can't
Uh-oh.
find it. Yeah. So it is weird when people don't want to win and they almost win.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, asking somebody out on a date. You want to go? No. Well, it makes you want to ask her more.
Right?
Come
Exactly.
on, baby. What'd you say? Don't call me baby, but go ahead and call me baby.
You had some
Don't
weird
vote for me, but vote for me.
You had some weird dating experiences, huh?
No, not really. I don't think so.
Oh.
I had some that really scarred me. I'll be honest with you. There was I'm not kidding you. There was when I was in my mid-20s. There was a girl I had met, and at a gas station. My car. I'd locked my keys in the car. I was waiting for AAA, and there was a girl there, and we just started talking, and she kind of kept me company for like 4 hours.
Wow.
So it was like, all right. So we started talking and got along really good. And she, I said, well, hey, this is before cell phones, right? So she goes, do you want to swap numbers? And sure. She goes, well, I'll give you my work number because that's really where I'm at all the time. All right, fine. So I did that. So a couple of days went by and I didn't call. And next thing I know, you know what? It was a real nice conversation. I enjoyed talking to her. So, I know where she works. I'm just going to send her some flowers. So I did. So I sent her flowers. 2 days later, there's a detective at work looking for me.
Oh.
Saying, did you send this girl? Yes. Okay. And then started asking me a whole bunch of questions and says, can you come down to the precinct, the Norwich?
What?
Yeah, and for questions. And I went, for what? Well, we'll tell you when you get here. Oh, famous last words. Well, I knew I didn't do anything. So I showed up there and sitting in the interrogation room and says, do you know so-and-so? I said, when I told the story, I said, I only know her because of this.
Right.
Okay. Did you send her flowers? Yes. Do you know where she works? Well, yeah, she told me where she works. Where does she live? I don't know. What's her home phone number? I don't know. I said, I don't even know her last name.
Right.
He goes, okay. I said, why? What is this all about? Well, apparently she had called the Norwich police and said that I was calling her at home.
Oh.
And making lewd comments.
Oh.
And I'm like, I don't even know.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right. And he goes, yeah, well, I don't think we have anything. I said, no. I said, I don't even know her last name. I said, how would I even know her number? I said, she wouldn't even give me your home number. I said, which I didn't ask for. She gave me her work number. She said, because that's where she was all the time.
Oh.
Well, the truth came out. What it was is that she was engaged.
Oh.
And her fiance showed up at work and saw that she had flowers and she couldn't slough it off. And then she had said, well, now this guy sent them. Oh, really? And he, I guess, pushed her.
Oh.
Or she's trying to get out of the situation. Yeah. So she called the cops.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Even to this day, I tell Melissa I'm weird about sending flowers.
Yeah, I'd be.
Yeah. So.
There's some crazy girls out there.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
My sons have found a few.
And y'all nuts, man. I'll tell you something. You guys are more nuts than the guys. Even though guys get a bad rap, there's some crazy ass women out there.
I was shocked when they were like maybe junior, seniors in high school, and we always had Android phones, and then we got iPhones. And I'm not good with technology. So somehow all our phones were like kind of a little bit linked together or something, or like an email. So one day I'm on my phone and I'm doing something, and all of a sudden it says, you've added whatever photos. Like, I'm not in any photos. And I go to the photo area. And mommy saw photos she never, ever wanted to see.
Oh, boy.
But it was because our phones were linked. So these girls were sending photos to my sons.
Mhm.
Like photos that
Yeah.
young girls shouldn't
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's
Uh-huh.
no, y'all nuts.
Yeah.
You guys really are.
Don't put me in that category. I'm not.
I'm telling you, guys get such a bad rap. We do. I think we're the sane ones. You guys are nuts.
I don't know about that. I mean,
You know why? Well, go ahead. You're going to say.
I just think that girls tend to get away with a lot of stuff because they're girls.
Yes. That's exactly where I was going to go
Yeah,
with it, too.
yeah.
I think you're exactly right. Guys don't have a shot in hell.
Yeah.
You know, and if you say, if anybody says, you know, men rule the world, that's a bunch of crap.
Right.
No. We only rule the world because the women let us. And even then, that's not true. You know, it's kind of like I rule the roost is my coffee cup, right? And then she has a coffee cup that says I rule the rooster.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I let Ernie think you were a spam.
See, there we go. See, there you go. You know,
I love you.
like I don't like with Melissa. I don't. I just kind of like okay.
You know, I think though.
I mean, there are things that I feel strongly about or whatever, but it's not anything like, you know, I don't demand anything.
No,
I'm not like that.
I'm not like that either. But I know what makes my husband happy, and that's what I do for him. It's not because he's making me do it or telling me to do it.
Right.
Just like the kids. Like, I know what you like to eat, so that's what I'm going to make you for dinner. It's not because you're demanding it or whatever.
You weren't one of those moms. This is what I make. If you don't like it, that's what you got.
I know. Well, my older two, they'll eat anything. I mean, anything. The youngest one and my husband are the two picky ones. Very meat and potato kind of people.
Gotcha. Melissa's kind of picky. And I think it's because of what she does for a living. So, but she's a little picky.
Yeah, they just.
Cameron's a little picky. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there's not much of a delay. I'm trying to figure out who Facebook user is today. Which one?
Is it Gort?
I don't know, but it's somebody that might be Irish. It's top of the morning to you.
Oh, maybe it is Gort.
So I don't see. I'm gonna have to go to a different group here and see if we can find who this person might be. It is Sean McFadden.
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think you know Sean. Sean
Yeah, I know
is.
who he is.
You do know Sean? He's
I know who he is.
he's the senior coach for the
Yes.
Griswold Youth Football that just won the Super Bowl.
I thought we weren't doing sports.
Stop it. Yeah, he just put Coach Sean.
Sean. Yes, I knew who that is. See, I'm learning.
Did anybody else lose the video, or is it just Polino? Dave doesn't say good morning. He goes, "What happened? Lost the video."
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Sometimes reboot. Because I just looked at it and it's there. Yeah, I'm looking right at it.
Waterbury having issues. Hamden.
Oh, I closed it and it went back on. All good now.
Yeah,
All right,
good.
good. Well, the camera probably saw my mug and said, not today.
Right.
Not today. Yeah, so sports, yay, sports. Yeah. Well, they won the Super Bowl.
Yes, I heard that.
36 nothing.
Yeah, you totally ignored my comment.
What?
You were totally ignoring me yesterday.
Sometimes I don't see it.
You were talking about the Griswold Plainfield game on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, do you know what they do in Plainfield the night before?
Pasta dinner?
No, they have a big, huge bonfire.
Oh, yeah.
And they burn one of the Wolverine helmets in the fire. thought that was funny.
Well, this year they're going to burn your pocketbooks.
I don't live in Plainfield.
Well, no, it's in Griswold this year. Ticket prices have gone up this year.
Oh, you have to buy tickets for those games?
To go watch it live. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's school's money. I mean, all the home games they charge.
Really?
Every school does, yeah.
Huh.
But the ticket prices for the Thanksgiving Day game is $10.
Oh.
$10 for adults and $5 for children and students.
Kind of a lot, isn't it? I mean, if you have a family.
Yeah, we have Cindy says we have a bonfire too. Yeah, it's $10.
Wow.
So we're gonna be live that morning before the game with the turkey dip.
I did one of those a few years ago.
I'm not doing it. I'm just gonna stream it. And it's not long. We set up, it takes 20 minutes to set up for like 5 minutes of video.
Right. Yeah, you run in and you run out.
Yeah.
Because it is cold. We did one New Year's Day one year at Lusa Pond. It was the Marine Corps versus the Army. That was fun. There's
they used to do one at Alexander's Lake.
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember working for WINY in Putnam, and I was the one that's supposed to be at the station controlling the board, and Gary is, doing the. Yeah. I was late.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oops.
I got there at 20 after 6. They'd already jumped in.
Oh.
Yeah. You screwed up royally. This is huge. Huge. Yeah, I know. I overslept.
Yeah, because he covers the one they used to do it at Thompson Dam, and now they do it at
you mean like Aquatic?
Yeah, I don't know. They did it up that way, but now they do it at Camp Conabog, right?
All right, yeah.
Danielson, wherever it is.
Yeah,
I think that's Danielson.
Yeah. Well, let's just listen to the conversation out in the hallway,
right?
Before we really need to shut that door before we do a show anymore.
Right.
Oh yeah, we heard you rolling that up. What's going on? Where do I know you from?
I've been to mathematicians events.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
5 or 6 years.
Gotcha. That's what I figured. All right. So obviously we have a guest. We talked about it, and I put it in the comments about what we were doing. So Jess, why don't you come right over here? You can sit on the chair, or you can move it out of the way, but you guys are gonna have to scrunch together.
I'll move the chair out of the way.
Huh? All right. So we have folks here from Perception Programs, the mobile mat van. I don't know what's going on with that. You gotta speak into the light.
Speak into the light.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys gonna.
I got stuck behind a garbage truck, so.
Why does everybody get stuck behind trucks today?
No, I got stuck behind the bus.
Are we taking up your time on your phone? I'll wait. I mean, What?
Probably in my jacket pocket. It's fine.
I don't know why this is doing this to you.
It's probably gonna go off, so maybe it's not fine.
We'll get it going here.
I don't know where it was. We get to share. We're good.
Jess, you're gonna have to actually move closer. There we go. You're a pretty tall, dude.
Really shows how low the ceilings are.
I know. Speaking of the turkey dip, McFadden says, if I sponsor you and bring a defibrillator, will you do the turkey dip? The answer is no.
I had a
What is no? Answer in the form of a question.
I have
What?
a funny story about that.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you later.
Tell me later. All right. All right. So we have a couple of guests in the studio right now. Jessica, how are you? Oh, is it just Jess? You don't want to be Jessica? Okay. I'm batting 1,000 today. All right. So hi, Jess. You're from the mobile perception programs, the mobile mat van. And I didn't get your name.
I'm Steven.
Hi, Steven.
I'm the harm reduction lead, so I do prevention work and syringe service program and Narcan distribution and HIV testing for perception programs.
Okay. So I know who you are, you know what you do. So why don't you give us an idea or tell everybody what perception programs is and also what the mobile mat van is.
Well, I think Stephen would be a better representation for just what, like, the history of perceptions, what they are, what they've grown into, because he's been there forever.
Gotcha.
And I'll go into my program.
Okay.
Well, it's not quite forever, but Perception Programs is a local nonprofit agency that does co-occurring mental health and substance use treatment. So it's based out of Willimantic, and we have both outpatient and inpatient programs to do treatment for individuals who are struggling with their mental health and or substance use. We currently have outpatients in Danielson, Stores, and Willimantic. And then we also have inpatient programs in sober homes based in Willimantic. And then we also have several different case management programs that cover Windham County and parts of New London County, depending on the specific program. So for instance, my specific programs are prevention navigation, which is trying to work with youth between 13 to 24 years of age to reduce their incidence of high risk behavior.
As low as 13? See, this is where I'm naive. So.
Yeah, so prevention work, the earlier you can get to somebody, the better the chance is, because the longer you can postpone somebody using substances or engaging in risky behavior, the less likely they are to engage in that behavior.
Yeah.
And even if they do engage in that behavior, the longer it is before they engage in it, the less dangerous that behavior is in terms of it's less likely to become a habit or an addiction or anything else. So if you can push how long it takes for somebody to drink, even just like 2 years back, that reduces the chance that they become an alcoholic or are dealing with substance use disorder later in their life.
Is that why they start drinking or alcohol prevention in 5th grade? Because I know that's a dare. Yeah, just say no. I know they start that in 5th grade.
So they try and start it. The idea is you want to start the education before the students are engaged in the behavior at all. And it is not most students, but there are students who end up starting their use. And when the people that we end up working with through the syringe service program and through the mat van, when we talk to them and get their stories, oftentimes the first time they drank alcohol or the first time they, drank or tried pills or whatever it is that they started with is often sometime in the middle school age. So the idea is that you want to start that education before they've started in that behavior to try and stop that before it begins.
My first time drinking, I downed 2 Mad Dog 2020s, like held my nose and drank them like to the head. My first shit faced,
Now, was it peer pressure or is it just something you said, I'm going to do this and I see this in the house and I'm going to do it?
Right. My mom and my stepfather were both alcoholics, and I just wanted to do it. It wasn't really forced on me, but there were friends and my cousin, and I did it. And then as I grew up, I kind of stayed away from alcohol because it was like the center of so much trauma and like pain. And I was like, no, I'm definitely not going to be that. But once opiates entered the picture, it was like a wrap,
So now how old were you when you started that?
Probably I had foot surgery when I was 16 for a bunionectomy, and I got pain pills then. And it was like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for. Like I could finally be in my own skin, and felt, I know a lot of people explain it this way, but it is just such a great analogy, like a big warm fuzzy blanket, like just safe. And like I didn't care about the outside perceptions of me or
Sure.
what people thought. It just kind of gave me that boost of confidence, and so I didn't want to let that go. But it's a progressive disease, so I took them. I loved them when they were gone. They were gone. But then, as I grew up and more traumas were inflicted, and more loss and whatever, then I started using them to numb the emotional.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I know even just for myself, I never got. For example, I would have like tooth pain or something like that. I know this is gonna sound stupid, but I would have a couple of teeth taken out, and the doctor would give me either it's Vicodin or Klonopin. No, not Klonopin. Percocet. Yeah.
Those are my drugs of choice.
And none of it ever did anything for me. Matter of fact, I ended up, if I ever have it, I just take Tylenol, but I never got. This is where it's kind of like, it's like, all right, well, yeah, it's a disease because I didn't get hooked on those things at all. Matter of fact, I didn't feel.
It's running rampant in my family, so people cannot convince me that there's not a genetic link. My mom has 3 children. All 3 of us have substance use disorder.
Good. Victoria, you were going to say something.
But isn't that environmental
I think
as well?
both. I think both, yeah.
I mean, to say it's hereditary, I think is a little.
So you don't think that it is hereditary? I mean, I think that
I think maybe a little bit, but I think it's more environmental.
I mean, I'm not.
I mean, I don't work in it,
right,
in the fields, but I've had experience with people, and my son is law enforcement, my husband is, and I just feel like environment has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely. I agree with that, but I also think that there's genetic.
So I think one of the biggest things to remember is the data from the CDC is that 75% of the people who are dealing with opiate use disorder started with a doctor's prescription. So they got a tooth pulled or they got in a car accident, and not everyone who gets an opiate prescription has it work for them or even likes it or even takes it when they get that prescription. Like I got my wisdom teeth pulled, I got a Percocet prescription. I think I took 1 pill and then I didn't take any more. But the easiest way for me to think about it is when you talk to people, like if you just talk with people about how they treat a headache, some people ibuprofen knocks it out every single time. Other people, ibuprofen does absolutely nothing. It's Tylenol all the way. Everyone's a little bit different. And it's the same thing with substance use. Is the same substance is going to do different things for different people. And some people might be trying to numb the trauma. Some people might be predisposed to an addiction to a specific medication or something else. Some people may have grown up in an experience where everyone around them was using one specific substance.
I think
there's any number of
way.
reasons why people can be in that situation, but the data shows that people who are dealing with opiate use disorder, 75% the first time they tried an opiate was a doctor's prescription. And some of them, when I've talked with people who are coming through the syringe program or in treatment programs, some of them, they took it and they ended up in that they got physically dependent on the substance because they were dealing with the pain, and then they never stopped. And others, they took it, and that first day, kind of what Jess was describing, they're like, this is what normal feels like. I never want to give this up.
Because that's what I was always seeking, was to feel normal, just to be able to be a mother.
Is it kind of like, is that what they mean by they say chasing the dragon a little bit? Or?
So that's a different thing. The chasing the dragon is
like a method of use, isn't it? Like smoking.
But chasing the dragon is also if you're somebody who's trying to get high. Like kind of the idea of chasing the dragon is you're never going to get better than that first high, but you're always trying to get to that first high that you had. And the only way to get closer is to use more and more and to use more intensely.
And that's where ODs come from.
Partially.
Some ODs just happen.
Yeah.
You take 1 pill and think it's, oxycodone from a pharmacy, but it's tainted with fentanyl. And you die because you got too much. My cousin just died last week from that.
Yeah, I think that behavior puts people more at risk just because they're more willing to go out there. And if they hear if somebody who's actively trying to get that better high hears that somebody died, they're going to go and try to find the person who sold that stuff, because that's the good
Because they
stuff.
think that they're exempt. I did too. I mean, I think that's like a characteristic that is almost always found in people who struggle with substance use is like feeling like they're invincible, that they're different, that they're, you know, smarter, bigger, better. They can do it differently. Like my son's father, God rest his soul, always would convince himself that he could use crack cocaine successfully without going into psychosis, right? Like he would go months, sometimes even years without using. And then when he would end up using, and I'd say, what the hell? Like, I don't know. Like my brain just said, well, if you use around these people, it'll be different. Or if you use in this space, or if you only buy this much, or, it's just all those justifications that we make in our minds to try and be able to use, because it is, creating some sort of comfort or covering up the traumas or emotional pain or whatever for.
But to kind of bring it back to some of our programs, so like part of my programs are the syringe service program, which is trying to connect people who are actively using with safe supplies.
Yeah.
And part of the reasoning behind this is that the data shows that individuals who are connected with a syringe service program are 3 times more likely to reduce their drug use and 4 times more likely to stop injecting altogether than somebody who's not connected with that syringe service program. So when they're connected with services, they start off coming to us just for needles and other supplies to use safely, but over time we build that connection with them. We establish trust, and when they mention, hey, I'm starting to get tired of this, that's when I call Jess and get the MAT van involved to say, hey, all right, you want to try and reduce your use, you want to be off the stuff from the streets, you want to try and get back to what the rest of society sees as more like a more normal life. Let's get you connected with the resources so you can actually get there. And when people aren't connected with the syringe service programs, oftentimes the only people who know they're using a substance are the person who's selling it to them and the people they're using with. And none of those
people giving them syringes, us. So when they're not using us, they have no ties to any linkage to care.
Yeah, if they're not connected with a syringe service program or other similar harm reduction program, nobody in their life necessarily knows that they're using, so they don't have anyone they can turn to quickly and easily and say, hey, that thing I'm struggling with, I want some help now.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, has drug prevention kind of changed in the last year to where it's been more so, we're not going to stop it, but we're going to go ahead and almost align, and gain trust and hopefully save lives that way, instead of actually just saying, no, don't do this.
Because we know that doesn't work.
Yeah, to go do, all right, we know you're going to use this.
Right.
Let's help you.
People are going to use drugs.
Well, I think it has to change with our open border policy now. I mean, we have so much more coming into our country. I mean,
do you guys find that to be an issue, with things that are coming into the country, or do you find it's more just as mind blown? Or is it?
I don't think it.
Or is it more a fentanyl issue?
Yeah, and that's coming from, multiple places. But
from my perspective, the supply isn't really the issue. The only way to stop the supply is to stop the demand. If there's somebody who wants to use, they will find a substance to use. There's always going to be a way, whether it is crossing the border or whether it's being diverted from the pharmacies, like was happening 10 years ago and is still happening, but a lot less now. However, there's always going to be a way for somebody to find a substance. If the demand is there, the supply is going to be there. So yes, we need the border controls to stop things from coming over the border. Yes, we also need the controls in the country to make sure that people can't get the supplies to, do a back alley lab and make stuff there. We need the controls on the pharmacies, but the supply controls can only do so much, because if the demand is still there, all the supply controls, all the border controls mean is that it's more expensive and riskier to get the drugs into the country.
But they're still going to come in.
But if the demand is high enough,
somebody will find a way around that risk. Somebody will find a way around that because the benefit to them, the profit to them is going to end up being high enough. So the only way to reduce substance use is really to work with the people who are actively engaged in substance use, keep them safe until they can make a different decision, and work with the people who are not actively engaged in substance use yet and try and convince them and educate them so that they don't get started in the first place.
But even that behavior it goes well past just drug addiction. There's so many different addictive things out there in this world that people follow the same traits. Like when I was in my 20s, I couldn't get enough of playing blackjack and going to the casino.
Or eating,
And if I didn't have any money, I found a way to get money to go over there to drop, at a $25 table to see if I could chase it, because I had won pretty big one night. So what do you think I was doing? I was chasing the dragon, because it would talk about it. Euphoric feeling, when you do that. But I had to be
and that's what you're chasing, is that euphoria.
Exactly. I just wanted to put it in a different context, so it's it's not just drug addiction. There's many other things. Because we hear that term equating to drug addiction mostly. But there are so many other things.
I mean, eating habits, sex
Sugar.
habits, gym, working out, pornography. I mean, one of my very close friends who's in long-term remission from opioid use, like she goes through cycles where like she gets addicted to chewing gum, and it will be like, packs and packs and packs a day of gum. So you can fill that void with anything, right? So
some are just less damaging than others.
Right. So I kind of try and fill my void with working. And
you work a lot.
Yes, I do. And educating the community around like ways of saving a life, like carrying naloxone and, using fentanyl testing strips, and encouraging people to create safer spaces for their loved ones, friends, loved ones, colleagues, whoever, to be able to come and ask for help, to be able to come and say, hey, I'm struggling, and not feel like they're going to be stigmatized and judged and, treated as less than.
And you said that you just got an update on how many people
Yes,
the Narcan you've given out through the MAT van has saved, right?
I just got the 30th report yesterday.
Got it.
So
I want to talk about the MAT van in a minute. We want to get into what she does there. But what I want to say, like even to Victoria, it's like we all have some sort of addiction, right? Like you and I, we smoke cigarettes, right? What would you do if honestly somebody took your cigarettes away and said, no more, just that's it,
they're
stop.
illegal.
Yeah.
If they weren't available, I wouldn't smoke them.
Okay. You wouldn't find a way to get them?
No.
Or somebody
It's not
came to
that
you and said,
important.
hey, I got some Marlboro 100s.
Yeah.
Then you would just, no, that would be it?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'd be like, how much?
Yeah.
For real. Me too.
Serious, because that addiction kind of takes over. All right. Somebody said to me one time at a party, they said they were literally doing lines of cocaine. And they said, do you want to try some? And I went, no. And I've never done cocaine, even to this day. And they said, why? And I said, because I'm afraid I'd like it too much.
And these days,
that was the real
don't, 'cause
answer.
You might die from a fentanyl overdose.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago. You know what I mean? But let's see. Yeah, I have a very.
I never tried anything. No.
No, I was just trying to equate it to like I know you smoke.
Yeah.
So it's like.
No, I would just.
Give it up.
Give it up. Go out and spend
Stop
more time with
smoking.
my horses. And
Can you stop smoking?
I could.
Let's do it then. Just do it.
Yeah, I could.
Let's do it. Yeah.
You want it?
Let's do it.
You gonna do it?
I will. No, I asked you because you're the one that's so like.
I will.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm not addicted. I don't care.
Do you know all 3 kids? The minute I found out I was pregnant, I stopped smoking. No caffeine. No nothing.
See, now I buy that. I buy that because
Then
that
I
was
had-
actually.
Then I had the kids, and it was like, oh, I think I'll have a cigarette.
That's actually. I'm glad you said that because one of the questions I wanted to ask, either one of you or both of you, is that there had to be some sort of defining moment that was maybe bigger than you that said, all right, I need to stop this?
Well, I've kind of shared that with you, I
Right.
think, my first time, but I didn't have DCF involvement. Nobody knew. My ex-husband was in the Navy, so we were like, away from family and friends. It was very easy
Right.
to continue my addiction because there wasn't family or friends that really knew me, right? Like I was a Navy wife, a stay-at-home mom. I
You had it
my
all.
little neighbor friends, but
You had a nice
nobody
little
knew.
community, you had
Right.
friends.
And like I said from the beginning, I wasn't using to get high and be like, ugh, like,
Right.
the picture of addiction, someone just slumped over in a nod. That wasn't me. I was using to literally be able to get up, make my kids breakfast, and like be a mom.
Right.
That's what I thought I needed to be able to be myself. And a lot of that was unaddressed trauma, unaddressed mental health diagnosis that came, in the last 10 years. There wasn't any like defining moment like, okay, I got arrested, or okay, like I'm gonna lose. It wasn't. It was just so sick and tired of keeping up with my lies. One. Every time my phone rang, I'd be like, shit, what am I about to get caught with or called out for now? And it was just,
It was too much.
I was tired. I was sick and
Yeah.
tired of being tired, like those cliches, but they're true, So I called and got help and, told my husband what was going on and went to detox and treatment. And God willing, I've only had to do it once and
Good for you.
just celebrated 10 years.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Now, is this something that you can speak to, or?
I fortunately have not had to deal with it personally. I kind of came to this work sort of by chance, and I mean, my own experience in, talking with people, because I started working in the inpatient program that Perception Programs runs. That was my first job in the field, which was eye-opening because I don't have anyone in my immediate circle when I was growing up who I knew was dealing with this. Now that I'm older, I know that like some of the parents were dealing with stuff, and like some of the kids that I hung out with occasionally like might have been dealing with stuff, but nobody that I knew. But like when I talk with people in the inpatient program and you get their stories and as you get to know them, because when I was working there, they were there for 4 to 8 months and I was there 40 hours a week. So you really get to know these people, and like learning their stories, a lot of them it's like, all right, so aside from a few minor differences in how I grew up versus how they grew up, or all those kind of things, I could have been exactly in that position. Like, because some of them came from what we might consider broken homes, but a lot of them came from loving, supporting families where they had both parents in the home, and they went to good schools and they did all this stuff, and then they got in that car accident, or they hung out with kids at the wrong party that one time, or whatever happened. And it's like, but for a few random changes in my life, I could have ended up in the same boat. And that's where I'm like, if I can offer hope and help to some people who are in this position, I mean, who am I to stand in the way?
Never say never, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the MAT van, the mobile MAT van. What is MAT? Is that an acronym?
It is.
What does the acronym stand for?
It's a little outdated, but it stands for medication assisted treatment. The preferred term now is just medications used to treat opioid use disorder, so like MOUD, but MAT, it's on the van, we'll keep that. So medication assisted treatment, which is kind of an inclusive term, which includes Suboxone, which is the medication that we help connect people to on our van. And then there's also methadone, but you have to get that in like a federally qualified, very secure clinic that you have to go to daily. So that's a lot for some
like one
people.
in Norwich.
Yes,
I know of one in
Norwich, Willimantic, and London, Putnam. Yeah. But again, some people it works because you do have to go every day. There's that kind of accountability, and others it just doesn't work. They don't like to be in that environment, whatever. But for our van, we connect people who are ready, right? We don't force anybody, but we just anyone that says that they want to stop using, we can connect them that day on the spot in the van via telehealth with our provider if they qualify. Like we obviously have to do screenings and stuff, but it's huge because when I first started this specific work, I've been working in the field like 9, almost 10 years, but 4.5, almost 5 years ago, 2 weeks was the average wait time between the time someone said, "Hey, yeah, I do want to try
To getting
Suboxone,"
into some
to
sort
getting
of
into a doctor's office to start this. 2 weeks, people can, one, change their mind, 12 different times. So we know with this population, when they express interest in, change, you need to do that change like now, because their mind can change. And now, sadly, they could die in that 2-week period while they're waiting. So we've grown and kind of moved forward leaps and bounds, but we still have a long ways to go, in my opinion. But anyway, yes, we can connect them with that medication. Or if they're more interested in methadone, I can make that referral. If they're, not ready to stop using, I have safe use supplies on the van as well, because I'm not naive to think that every individual that I engage with that has opioid use disorder is going to be ready to stop using when I engage with them. But I can use the other stuff like the naloxone, like the sterile supplies, like the syringes, the fentanyl testing strips, all of that we have, to engage them, to build that trust, to, provide overdose prevention education and ways to limit or reduce their risks for overdose and dying. And I think that we're doing a pretty good job. We've had 23 Suboxone inductions. Like I said, we just got the 30th report that, and those are only the ones reported that lives were literally saved. Do we know if those people went and used and, after that, an overdose again, or maybe one of them passed away? No, we don't. And, but at least they got another chance to try again. And it is not my job to tell people what they need to do about their drug use, what they should do about their drug use. It's literally, what do you want to do about your drug use? And then how can I help you reach that goal? So if it's to continue using, okay, I'm going to support you in that. But can you use safer? Can you please not use alone? Can you please test your supply? Can you please have naloxone? Like all of those things that we continuously educate the community about, because they're most important.
So that's what I one of the biggest takeaways I get when I hear from like yourself, or talk to Kathy from Matt's Mission, or Miranda from Grizzle Pride, is not to use alone.
Yes.
And I mean,
He's got a stat for you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I was at a training that was put out by the state on the overdose deaths from last year in Connecticut. So the state had 1,527 people die last year. 181 of them were in Windham and New London County, and 10 of them were in Griswold. Just to put in perspective how we're dealing with it out here. According to the state medical examiner's office,
this is in 2021.
2021.
Okay.
But according to the epidemiologists and the people who were going through the data, 55% of those overdose deaths, there was somebody else in the building and they did not know they needed to go and check on that person. So 55% of those 1,500 people, there was somebody else who was in the building or, just downstairs, and they did not know they needed to come up and knock on the bathroom door or open the bedroom door and check and see if that person was okay. And that's all stigma of the person not feeling comfortable, being like, hey, I'm using, or any of those kind of things. Now, that's not a guarantee. Like, we can't guarantee that those 55% of the people would have been saved if naloxone had been available and given to them. But it's, as Jess said, it's a chance for them to maybe make a different decision. And unfortunately, we never know what number chance that person needs in order to finally decide, what, enough's enough. I'm ready to make a different choice. And so just making sure that people feel comfortable talking with each other and saying, hey, I need you to come check on me in 5-10 minutes. And if they can't do that, there's a 1-800 number that people can call, which is the Never Use Alone hotline. And there's also 2, and I'm sure there might be more, but there's an app for Apple only, and there's an app for Apple and Android. So the Apple only is the Canary Overdose app, and the one that's on both is the Brave app. And both the apps essentially allow the person to program in, hey, Bob lives downstairs from me. Bob's always home. Bob has Narcan. Call Bob first. If Bob doesn't pick up, then call 911. So at least they have that chance of somebody realizing that they need help in coming to them.
There's a question from Shayna in the chat room that this is a good question. I think a lot of people think about this, but they don't ask because maybe they don't know how to ask. But it's simply, how do you volunteer and help?
Oh, well.
Shayna's the illest, by the way.
Yes.
Shannon the illest.
You are the illest, Shannon. Thank you. I can get you more information on that. I don't have like a concrete answer, but I would love volunteers and help because we have lots of kits to make, like the wound care kits that we provide, the fentanyl testing kits, and all of that. So you can call 860-336-9412, which is the Mobile Mat Band phone number.
And just so you know, if you didn't get that
information.
phone number, you can always rewatch this video and you can just, it's always there. So
And it's
the
always
number's
on
there.
the Perception Programs Facebook page or, perceptionprograms.org.
Now, you're also going to be in Jewett City today.
I
correct?
am. I'll be in Jewett City, right in front of SNSN, or Matt's Mission, 70 Main Street, from 2 to 4 today.
And that's, Shayna. So if you want to head down there and meet Jess,
yes,
you can't miss the van.
Mhm. Very well marked.
Yeah. So
I would love to meet you.
She's the illest. Just ask her; she'll tell you.
And if somebody's wanting to help and they can't or don't want to help out with the mat van, they want to do something else. Many communities end up with a local support group. So here in Jewett City, there's Matt's Mission and Griswold Pride, which are working to support individuals both in the after something has happened and trying to connect people with treatment for Matt's Mission, but also Griswold Pride is trying to connect the students and the youth with prevention services so they don't end up.
And I can say
working
that
with us.
Griswold Pride and Matt's Mission have been a enormous partner and support to the mobile mat van. They've given me lots of supplies to help engage people, like the Matt's Mission backpacks, cell phones, on a limited basis, obviously, but just also the peer support, to have people that get it, that are, because this work is traumatic. I mean,
We haven't even talked
people,
about Daryl McGraw from
McGraw.
formerly Inc.
Yes.
There's a gentleman right there that spent time.
That's a story.
Oh yeah, we've sat and talked. He's very open about it.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes.
And you're talking about a guy from like a rags to riches kind of story. He was probably down further than anybody could go, and now he's got a pretty steady job with the state.
He sure does, doing TED Talks and everything.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He was one of my predecessors, in this journey. And
he's a cool guy.
He is a cool guy.
Especially when he's going on Facebook talking about how to make prison cake. Just pretty funny stuff. I tried to make it, didn't work.
Can I just list off a few more of the services that
absolutely.
offers? So I think I briefly mentioned wound care kits and then the fentanyl testing kits. We also have given over 315 naloxone kits. My contract asked that we pass out 50 for the year. So we've I don't even know what that number is,
six times
the amount so far, and we're halfway or a little more than halfway through the contract period. So that's exciting. We've also partnered with the Norwich Soup Kitchen. UCFS is also a really great partner. They made pre-made food bags to pass out. Yep. And then also the Mat van is doing a hat, scarf, and mitten, either used or lightly used or new. And I'll collect those either here today in Jewett City from 2 to 4, or you can always leave them, I'm sure, here at SNSN or at Matt's Mission or Griswold Pride, or call me again, 860-336-9412. But we have a lot of folks that are literally sleeping outside that are cold and would be very, very grateful for a hat, scarf, or mittens.
Joe, do you have anything that you want to add? Because I know you're more on the skepticism side of a lot of this. I mean, it's okay.
I don't know as though it's skepticism. I think I just have a I just look at it differently. That's all.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know.
It doesn't. It's not wrong. It's just that's what your thought
Right.
is. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not attacking you.
No, I just have a different perspective.
Deb, who's a dear friend of mine. By the way, Deb's still got a lot of stuff for you to come and get. She goes, I can help make kits. I would love to give back to my community. She's just about celebrating 8 months in recovery.
Congratulations.
That's a story. I'm
That's
telling you right
amazing.
now. That's a
Deb?
story. Deb Franklin, yeah.
Thank you, Deb.
If you guys
And
can
congrats.
connect, that's a story.
That's amazing.
So, and she's done a wonderful job. Amazing turnaround. So,
I would love to meet you. I'll be again, Jewett City, 2 to 4. We also have some exciting news. We added, how do you say the town again? I always
¿Cómo se
forget.
dice?
Sprague,
Yeah.
Connecticut, Riverside Park, the upper lot.
Yep.
And we will be there every third Tuesday of the month. And we just had our first stop last week, which, I mean, it was uneventful that nobody came, but that's okay.
You're a busy little girl, aren't you?
I am. I am very busy. We have, I don't even know, 7 different towns and 2 different counties that we're going to. Now I've engaged with like almost 300 individuals that have received at least one service from the van. And like I said, 23 inductions now. I have like 27 people on my caseload because I can do like light case management.
Yep.
Kind of working with the individuals, even if they're not ready for Suboxone or if they are on Suboxone, wherever they're at in their journey, I can kind of just provide peer support. You know, I think that is such a huge, huge piece. It's not everything, because like Stephen, like he makes huge impacts in this community every single day, and he doesn't have lived experience, you know, other than the lived experience from the last however many years that he's been
10
doing
years
this,
I've
right?
been doing this.
But
so you guys look at it from a different angle.
Right.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
Jess is coming from a personal lived experience, and I'm coming from
professional experience.
I got into this kind of by accident, and
I don't think it was by accident.
Well, I didn't necessarily
I
go out and be
understand what
like,
you
I
mean,
want
yeah.
this job. And seeing the impact and the help that people do need, and that I could offer some of that help, really kind of changed the direction of my life at that point. So
Yeah, not by chance. I don't know. I think things are meant to be and stuff like that. So
absolutely.
Where do you want to go from here? I mean, do you want to stay in this field, or I mean, do you find coming from a non-addictive background, do you find that your work in this field has been helpful? Are you fulfilled?
So I've definitely found it fulfilling, because as much as we have people who we're working with who have not made a decision to stop using, every once in a while I'll be out at some random event somewhere, and I've been to some events and like somebody shouts at me from across the field and is like, hey, and it's like I barely remember them, but they run over
remember
to say
you.
hi and give me a hug, because apparently for a 4-month span of time, while I happened to be one worker at an inpatient facility, I gave them some of the help they needed to make that change. And when they come over and they tell me, oh yeah, I got married, I got my kid back, it like
it all worth
my
it.
life is back where I want it to be. That's what makes this work worth it, is when you see the people who have managed to internalize the lessons that the outpatient and inpatient programs are trying to teach, and get the support that MAT can offer if that's what they need, and been able to actually use that to turn their lives around.
Yeah. And you got to hold on to those wins, because there's a lot of loss, like I said, this work is traumatic, and, I lost 3 participants in like a month, or maybe not even 3-week period a couple years ago, I mean, 2 in 1 week. That's traumatizing, especially when I've experienced my own personal loss with my son's father. And so every time I lose somebody, it's very traumatizing. When I lost my cousin last week, it is infuriating. Like, why
How
my
old was
own
your cousin?
24, she had 2 babies, and her and her boyfriend both used together. They fell out together, and then he woke up and she wasn't breathing. So when stuff like that happens, last week I was a mess and I was like questioning, like, what am I even doing? Like, is this working? Like, all the effing numbers just keep going up. The overdose numbers keep rising. But then I have people like Steven or my other colleagues or my, friendships that can bring me back down and say, but imagine the numbers if we weren't doing all of this. Imagine how many people would be dying
I mean,
if
you have
we weren't.
the amount of people that you've lost, unfortunately, but how many have you saved?
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
I hate to sound so cold, but
well, as I like to say, because I work in both the prevention and the harm reduction side, I always like to say that my prevention department's trying to put my harm reduction department out of business.
Absolutely.
The end goal is and I don't know that we'll ever reach it, but the end goal is to stop people from getting started in the first place, and then with the people who are already in that situation, to give them the resources and support they need so they can stop themselves. And so that's the goal. And I know Jess's goal is also our whole goal is to put ourselves out of business.
Yeah, I always like to remind myself, though, to not have an attachment to the outcome. Carol Jones, my old supervisor, was huge on reminding us on that. And it was the best lesson in this work, especially in empaths like me, to remember that it's not my job to get someone to stop using, right? It's not my job to get them into treatment. It's my job to provide them with the education, the information, and the access to the resource, but not to have an attachment on that outcome, because then I would be beating myself up
all the time.
Every single time someone didn't go into treatment. Like, I'm not God, I'm one person, and I can provide the information, education, and resources, access to those resources, but I cannot have an attachment to the outcome. And that was very helpful for me, because, I want everyone to get it, but I also want everyone to feel safe that if they don't get it, that's okay. Like, still come back. Don't let shame and stigma keep you using alone and then you die because you can't Narcan yourself.
Victoria, let me ask you a question. Hi. Have you suffered a loss due to an opioid addiction? See, now I asked that for a reason, because one of the things that I hear from Miranda Mahoney tells me all the time.
Everyone has.
Everyone has some sort of connection or knows somebody or has lost somebody. I can tell you a few, so do you, Steve, let me ask you, and this is not knocking you, I can see you crossing your arms, do you find, because I'm sure you've met up with people that have not been affected, or they say they have not been affected, the people that say that, do they have a totally different view of what you do compared to people that have been affected personally?
So I wouldn't say that it's based on that. A lot of times when people hear about harm reduction programs or medication assisted therapy programs, they see it as enabling the person who's using. And a lot of what my work is working with when I'm talking with those people is to try and, educate them, because if they don't have somebody in their own personal life, it's hard for them to understand. Like, before I started working in this field, I couldn't understand why somebody couldn't just stop using. Like, I couldn't make sense of it. What made sense of it for me was there was a young individual at the inpatient program. They could articulate why they started using. They could articulate what their triggers were. They could articulate that they wanted to stop using and all the strategies that they needed to stop using. They still ended up relapsing. Even with all of that in place, they still ended up relapsing. So to me, that was what kind of was okay, so it doesn't matter how much you know or how utterly convinced you are that you want to be sober.
Yeah.
There is, in some people, in some cases, there is something in them that they don't have control over. And that is not in all people. You read the stories all the time of the person who just up and dropped stuff and stopped using and never used again. You hear that all the time, but that is everyone is different. And what our job is when we're talking with individuals out in the community is to really let them know, if somebody wants to use, like going back to what you were saying about smoking, like if cigarettes weren't available and somebody offered you a cigarette, or you found a way to get cigarettes, you would still go ahead.
I'd find a way. Yeah.
And that's the situation with people who are actively using is, if they want to inject a substance, they will find a way to inject that substance. It does not matter if they don't have a needle. It does not matter if they don't have a syringe program around, or they don't have a pharmacy that's willing to sell needles. They will find a way to get that needle. And
then they share them.
And then they share those needles, or they reuse them. And it's, if somebody is actively using, they need to find a way to get the money so they can pay for the substance, and that often ends up leading them to doing things that are not entirely legal. That's one of the
or legal at all.
That's one of the things that, like, when I'm talking with people who are in that situation, the anecdotes of we had somebody who was using the syringe service program, and they decided finally that, hey, I want to get on methadone. They got on methadone, and within like 2 months, they were actively working with the DCF case manager to reestablish contact and eventual, partial custody of their kids. They started going back to school, and they'd gotten a full-time job. Within like a month of them starting on medication-assisted therapy, all those changes happened because they were no longer focused entirely on how can I find the money to use the substance so I don't have the withdrawal symptoms, or so I can get the high that I'm looking for, or whatever it is that they were going for. And we can never assume that we know why somebody is using a substance, because unless they've told us, it could be any number of reasons. And then the other part of that, for me at least, is because they're going to find a way no matter what, if we can make it safer, that reduces the risk to both them and the community and the cost.
And there is no data to support that having harm reduction services by any means increases drug use, causes people to start using drugs. There is not someone that's going to say, oh, there's a syringe service program. Let me go start shooting, heroin or fentanyl or whatever because it's available. By no means does it increase drug use. It actually does.
And this is why you're going to love this story of Deb.
I can't wait to
I'm sure she'll get in touch with you. I'm sure she will. Pretty successful, I think, this morning as far as getting the words out. Her and Shayna, those are a couple people that are very vocal about,
awesome,
reaching out to
and
you
we're
guys
here in Jewett City. I didn't really mention that today from 2 to 4, but also on the second Tuesday of every month from 10 to 12. So for right now, we're keeping those hours, but just FYI, in the near future, we will be changing it to like a set time for all
every time that you're
every
here.
time we're here, and the same time in Sprague, so that we can just keep it, because my schedule's a little wonky.
And if people need services and they can't get here when Jess is here, the syringe service program, we are also here in Jewett City on Fridays from 1 to 3. And
that's behind
the town hall from 1 to 3
in an unmarked van.
It's an unmarked 15-passenger van,
right?
But people can get services there.
But that's just to protect anonymity, right?
It's all confidential, and in addition, like Jess can connect them direct with a provider, and we've been working with, since the providers are available on Jess's schedule, not necessarily in the schedule that the syringe service program is out. We've been working with the Yale Health community healthcare van, where we can also connect people on that Friday from 1 to 3 with a Suboxone provider, telehealth, so that they can also get started on Suboxone that same day and pick up the prescription in the pharmacy if that's the route that the person wants to take. And similar to Jess, if somebody's more interested in methadone, we can help connect them with methadone. And we know that especially if somebody's going to the Norwich or the Willimantic methadone clinic, they have to get to Hartford first. So sometimes we can help them get that ride to Hartford if they don't have that availability. So we try and connect them with whatever resources they need. We are not here this Friday because we're off, but we're here every other Friday from 1 to 3.
I'm glad you were here for this, because I know you have a different outlook on what we're talking about today. So just so you know, I know you've been kind of sitting there going, I know you're stewing on a few things.
No.
Just trying to be appropriate.
Yep.
But But I'm glad you were actually here for this show and everything. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys, showed up today. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you for having
It's
us.
good to see you again. I knew you from somewhere. But you're gonna be 2 to 4.
2 to 4.
You're gonna be in the Country Farms parking lot, which is right next door to us.
Next door to Matt's Mission.
Yep. And you can't help but see you and
Yes.
everything. So Deb,
Anybody with scarves, hats, or jackets, please feel free to drop them off. Even socks,
Yep.
toiletries, anything. I mean, that's not part of the drive, but we're always accepting donations, especially this time of year.
so Deb and Shayna, you know where she's going to be. So
I would love to meet you guys.
guys, thank you very much for coming on in. I appreciate your
you.
time. Well, I'm sure we'll talk to you a little bit
I'll see you
later.
today.
All right, Stephen,
Buy
pleasure.
candy for the van.
Absolutely.
Nice meeting you.
That's right. I'll get some. I'll bring. You guys need candy for the van? I always ask her if she needs something. So.
You're the best.
No, we'll see you over there.
Oh, I can't wait. Looking forward to it.
But yeah, it's really really cool. So and they're cool people too to boot.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, they don't suck.
No.
I mean,
Thank you.
so what's your take? Tell me
I'm not.
on that on our discussion. It's okay. I mean, everybody has different views.
I just have a very different perspective. I think
Okay.
because of
Tell us. I mean, if you feel
the
comfortable
family's
enough.
involvement in law enforcement, the family's involvement in
Mhm.
the fire department. So my husband goes on those medical calls.
Right.
You have people that are using because they know you're going to show up with Narcan and you're going to save them. And then they're going to go to the hospital. There was one in Oregon years ago that they literally hauled the guy to the hospital twice after giving him Narcan. Then they released him and he went home and he OD'd again and they didn't get there with the Narcan in time.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, no.
I understand what they're trying to do. I still think that prevention is the way to do it. I don't think that telling children, "Oh, make sure you have a buddy while you do drugs." I just don't agree with it. That's just my feeling.
And that's okay. That's why
everybody likes to make fun of DARE. I was a DARE kid. And then when my kids were in Young Marines, we did the DARE program. And you know what? I have 3 sons who the oldest 2, their father was a piece of crap. He died. I was a single mother, struggling. My kids, they had the perfect setup to be addicts. And you know what? Not one of them has ever done anything because I was standing there saying,
see, now that goes along with your
in hell. You're doing it in my house, pal.
That goes along with your feeling and your thought about, no, it's not really hereditary. You don't feel.
I can understand how, because of her life experience, she might believe it's hereditary. But looking at my life experience and other people that I know, I mean, I'm surrounded by people that don't do drugs.
Let me ask you a question.
Because that's the kind of people I want to be around.
And I'm only saying this because I have a friend that works in another field, not drug addiction or anything. Do you think that it is not so much hereditary, but it is generational?
Well, yeah, because your environment, if you're seeing your parents drinking and doing drugs, I mean, she said it herself. She came from that, and then her husband did it. So,
okay,
I don't think that's hereditary. I think that's environmental.
Well, one of the ladies that comes into our chat room, her name is Peggy. She works in like she talks about generational hunger. Right. We've talked about it before with her, and we got to have her on again. And I think a lot of this, fits into one another.
And it's important.
But what do I know?
The people that you hang around with,
right?
Like I choose not to hang around with people who use drugs or,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I don't have people like that in my life.
Yep.
So my kids never saw it growing up. They didn't see that it was a normal thing to do.
Yeah. I have a friend that's been to rehab 3-4 times.
You know, my oldest son is a police officer, and when he got on the department, they did their Narcan training, and he was very pro Narcan until he showed up at a house one day, and a mother was there with her. I think the kid was like 36 years old, 35 years old. She goes, "Oh, I used up the last of my Narcan yesterday, so you guys are going to have to give him Narcan." My son turned to her and goes, "What?" She goes, "Well, yeah, I keep Narcan in the house because, you know, he needs it almost every day." She goes, "So, you know, you're going to have to do it." So he gave him the dose, whatever it was. And she goes, "Oh, that's not going to be enough because, you know, he's kind of used to it now."
So he needs a double
son
hit.
said, he goes, "That was the last time I touched Narcan." He said, "Now I call an EMT."
Yeah.
He said, nope.
See, I agree with a lot of the argument of it being like environmental and generational and stuff, because I think you know it's kind of like you are what you eat kind of thing, right?
Right.
You know.
Well, and I think a lot of times people who have had the experience, they then substitute something else, you know, caffeine or you know, something.
Yeah, I was saying I have a friend that that's been in rehab 3-4 times, and this person is currently out of rehab right now. And I tell this person all the time, you know, I said, "Look, you've got to," and this person keeps gravitating to the same types of people that are derogatory to, you know, this person's health and well-being. And I tell this person all the time, you got to start hanging with a better class of losers.
Right.
Because you're going to keep getting dragged back
And
into the
that's why
same
I
thing
was
that you're
saying,
trying,
I
the same
think
dragon you're trying to fight.
I think that's why I'm saying I think it's more environmental than anything else. My mother always said, "You're known by the company you keep."
Yeah.
So if you choose to be with better quality people, you're not gonna
Yeah,
fall
I
down those
think
paths so
if
easily.
you have a parent or grandparent or whatever that is or was a user, I think you know you'd find that passed down.
Yeah.
So is that hereditary?
No, it's environmental.
Gotcha.
Because you saw it and it was okay.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, lovely.
You're welcome.
You're a lovely lady.
You can take me to breakfast?
Oh, screw you.
Really?
Oh, what the hell would I be?
I came all the way down here.
You came here for breakfast? You didn't come here to do a show?
I wanted biscuits and gravy.
Who's stopping you?
Well, then I'll go by myself. I'll find somebody else to sit with.
God.
I need you.
Fine. All right. Tomorrow, Paul Lash will be back as grumpy as. Oh, Peggy is there. Peggy, did you hear me giving you the props? She goes, "Grinch, you're a mean one, Mr.
Me?
Grinch." No, me.
Oh, I thought you meant me.
Yeah, Peggy, we got to have you on again. I think it's kind of a nice segue to get into what you do. You did. You gotta go back. I was like giving you props, kid. Jeez. So if you missed any of this program, it is going to be posted. Please go back and watch it if you want to know, get an idea of what Perception Programs is all about and the mobile mat van and what they do with harm reduction supplies for people that do use. There's so many programs out there, and why? Because there's so many people that use, and hopefully one of them programs, if not themselves, helps them stop, because you don't want to buy this shit on the street or anything. No. Because you can't even buy marijuana, and it's exactly, it's terrible. It's scary. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'm telling you. And now somebody says, "Do y'all only do Grizzle games?"
Y'all?
No, is the answer to that question. So you gotta get your town to hire us. How's that? No, so but there's all these things, that happens, that gets put into it.
Right.
And Peggy deals with hunger.
Yep.
And I really like the subject, talk about generational hunger. Yep. And I want to get more and more into that. And the more I hear about what she talks about, it's like, yeah, that's so spot on. And I would love you to be here for that show. Yep. So I think because Paul will just bitch about it. All right, let's go get some biscuits and gravy. And and Shayna, you said it, and I'm gonna just kind of leave it on the front porch with this one, and this is true. And she deals with homeless as well. Yep. But Peggy, we got to do it again. And Shayna says it though. Now you buy drugs, and you die.
Yep.
And that's very, very sad.
Yeah.
All right, Paul Lash tomorrow. Thursday, we'll be doing the turkey dip. Yep, Thursday morning. And then we're gonna call it a day. Maybe I'll get some turkey biscuits and gravy. Look at that. I had turkey soup last night. Melissa made it amazing. And then I ate a whole pumpkin pie. Well, there was one piece missing. But I ate the rest.
Wow. No pie on Thanksgiving for you.
Oh, yes, there will be. All right, if we don't see you tomorrow, we hope we see you one more time before Thanksgiving. If we don't, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Well, we'll be back tomorrow with Paul Grumpy Lash right here at SNSN.
Life is full of choices. At Jewett City Savings Bank, we can make one choice easy, finding the right checking account. We offer a range of affordable accounts to fit your budget and needs, and each gives you the freedom to access your money the way